Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast, where we explore your hidden thoughts and desires, revealing your greatest drop the soap moment. The need to have closure in any given situation is sheer human nature. And when it comes to romantic relationships, this desire skyrockets. Has your previously failed relationship left you in immense pain? It's not uncommon for people to shy away from a new relationship after their first one fails miserably. The fear of the unknown makes them hide in a shell to prevent any future heartbreak. Relatable? Despite wanting to love and be loved, you can't take the plunge if your mind and heart are still locked somewhere in the past. Maybe you aren't aware of the power of releasing the past, or perhaps you don't know how to do it. Art Costello in his online course teaches the art of moving on from bad places to happier, more stable ones. This course can change your life for good, helping you beat all kinds of negativity on the road to eternal bliss. Sign up now before the gloominess gets the better of you at expectationacademy.com. Now here's your host, Art Costello.
Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast. Today my guest is Nada Hogan, and I have known Nada now for a few months, and I met her at the New Media Summit. I love her. She's full of fire. She does life transformation coaching. Let me introduce Nada. She's special. She has a great story that is really impactful, and I'll let her tell it. So with no further ado, let me introduce Nada Hogan.
Well, thank you, Art. And it is absolutely an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Yes, so as Art said, I am Nada or Nada either. And I have a podcast that's called Dare a New Belief, which is named after my daughter, whose name is Dara. And that's the story that Art is talking about. 10 and a half years ago, my daughter was 18 years old and was killed in a car accident. And that was my life transformation. And my coach would have been my daughter, Dara, who knew that the 18-year-old would be teaching the 45-year-old. So it was through that. And you know, Art, as you know, it's 10 and a half years. That's a long time. And I'm still processing and still trying to figure out everything that has come from that accident. But what I can tell you, the biggest thing is the connection or reconnection, I should say, that I reestablished to that presence and power in me that's inside of all of us that I call our God source or our God self or the essence, infinite intelligence living inside of us. And that thing that should have pulled me the farthest away from having any kind of faith in a God or a powerful being, more powerful than us, it was because of that accident that my faith got stronger. So it was kind of a strange turn of events on how my life turned around because of my daughter's accident.
Yeah, it's amazing how the things that can be the most tragic to us become the greatest teachers in our lives and awakenings. As you know, I lost my wife to cancer 12 years ago. And for me, it was an awakening experience. I'm a Vietnam vet also, which at 17 and 18 years old awakened me to life and how to live life. So I find it, I understand it. I'm not sure everybody that's listening can understand it because they haven't experienced it. And I don't want them to have to experience it. But yet I want them to realize that they don't have to go through that to tap into what we're talking about. So can you expound on how somebody who has not experienced this tragedy or this event in their life that has affected them, how they can tap into it? How do you teach that to people?
Well, I think the easiest way to teach it is we all have longings and discontents. There's something inside of us that beckons us for more, right? I mean, it's more than just going to high school, going to college, getting a job, getting married, having the house, raising the kids, retiring, and, and then showing up on death's doorstep. And right, how many people go through life and it's just that you go through the motions of doing the things that you're supposed to do, that you think you're supposed to do, and there's no life in that. There's no spirit in that. And we know people, we're around people that go through life doing that all the time. And I think that essence, that thing, that presence and power shows up inside of us as longings and discontents, that we're longing for something more. The same exact way that a pine tree, every single year, when you look at a pine tree, there's that brand new baby green on the ends of it, right? And it might just be, a quarter of an inch, then a half an inch, and then an inch. But it's life pressing through that tree. And that same DNA that's in the tree is the same DNA that's in us, that life is always seeking fuller expression of itself. So when I talk to people and I say, what would you love for your life? And usually whether they have gone through a traumatic event, whether they've been in Vietnam or they've suffered the loss of a wife or a child or whatever the case may be, so many times they throw their hands up and say, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's all of the things that I've wanted in my life never happened. So I just quit dreaming. I quit thinking I could have anything more. And when you get a person just to settle down enough and really listen to them, like it will come up like, I want to go see the Grand Canyon. I've always wanted to go and see the Grand Canyon. And something as simple as that will open up the door to, I've always wanted to be an artist. I want to start painting. I've always wanted to be a volunteer in Africa, whatever. But that one little door opening of noticing I've always wanted to something. And as soon as you can identify even that littlest things, doors just open up and those longings and discontents start showing themselves more and more, because it's just life saying, you're in me, I'm in you. We need to do something together here. You're not here just to exist to get to death. It's life. It's all about living.
Then it taps into very much to what I teach in expectation therapy, because that's my bag, my thing is expectations and how we manage our expectations. Because so many people that go through what you've explained, I hear from that too. So in my process, I talk about one of the biggest elements in expectation therapy is identification. Because if you can't identify something, you can't change it. If you don't identify it or identify it properly. So we spend a lot of time in identifying what your core expectations are. I just had a conversation just a few minutes ago with a guy on the same issue about, how do you identify what you want? Well, the way that you do that is you have to really go into some self-delving into your heart, your soul, your gut, your brain, and you have to figure it out. And I take people to places that they're comfortable, because I think that in order for you, and it was the same with myself, when I went to identify as a 9-year-old, I had to figure out everything on my own. I went to a hilltop and laid on my back and had these conversations with God about what was going to happen to me, what was going to become of me, because my existence was so crappy and everything. And I heard a voice that just said, be faithful and believe, and once you start doing that and it becomes part of your core, you trust in it and you become very authentic. And it's really what we're seeking is our authentic selves, to become the authentic person who we are meant to be. And it's all different for all of us. And
absolutely.
So it's important to identify that. So I love that what you're, how you're doing that with people. Can you tell me when you have somebody who has a tragic event like you did, how you work with them and how you help them? Because there's somebody out there today listening who needs you. And I want them to understand how you got there and how you can help them overcome it.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, that when I'm working with people, like, you have to go through the grieving process. You can't bypass that. You have to go through the grieving process. And then I think for most people, there hits a place in your life where you just say, there has to be more than this. I have to be able to feel something more than this. And for me, the turning point for me is when, I don't know if it was a download or where it came from, but it came to me. How am I honoring Dara today? Because staying in bed and crying and wallowing in that pain didn't prove that I loved her. Although prior to her accident, I would have expected somebody to do that. And you probably never get out of bed, because that's how you really prove that you love that person. I don't think that can be further than the truth. I think we prove how much we love that person and honor that person by carrying them forward, carrying their memories forward with us, sharing stories about them, listening to stories that other people have, the light and life that that person brought to another person. I think that is the way that we start our own healing, because we know, it's not a surprise and it's not a secret. We're all going to die. We would like it to be after a full life, and we live to be 80, 90, 100, but it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes I wonder if it's not, you hear soul contracts, and we decide long before we come down onto this planet what it is, how long we're going to be here. And did my daughter say, yeah, I'll be that 18-year-old girl who is killed, before her time, in air quotations. And I may have said, yeah, I'll be the mom that takes on that pain. I can do that and then be able to rise from the pain of that. I don't know if any of that stuff is true, but I do know that mothers lose children all the time. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't break our hearts, because it does break our hearts. But I think it also means that that person that we lost is in a good place. And whether we want to call it heaven, or I do like to call it heaven. And sometimes I just say, she just went back to source, or she went back to the energy from which she came from, that her physical body is gone. Her spirit hasn't left. Her spirit certainly hasn't left me. And she shows up all of the time. But staying in that broken heart and staying in that pain, I don't think it honors her. And in fact, I think I shared, I don't remember if I shared this with you, Art, or not, but I know it was just a few months after her accident, and I have pictures on the hallway. And every time I would walk by her picture, I would just cry. I would fall to my knees and I would just sob and cry. And I heard her in my heart say, if all I do is bring you pain and sorrow, then quit looking at my pictures. And you can look at my pictures again when you can smile and be happy for all of the great memories we have together. And I didn't look at her pictures for, I don't know, a month, 2 months. I didn't look at them for a long time, because it felt to me like that was a soul contract from her to me. Why are you being in pain? You're bringing this part on yourself. Then just don't look at me. Do something. Go smell flowers. Go for a walk. Do something that brings you life, because I'm safe. I'm in a really great place, and I will help you and support you. But I can't help you if you are finding reasons to cry. I hope that's making sense. And I don't mean it to sound cold or cruel.
I think it sounds beautiful. Honestly, I do. There's a beauty in that is so raw and authentic and genuine that, I maybe it is because of my own experience, because, when I lost my wife and she passed away 3 years afterwards, I dishonored her. I promised her that I would take care of myself and do things like that. And I started drinking and acting like an ass, to put it mildly, and not honoring her. It's when my kids came to me 3 years later and said to me, Dad, you promised Mom you wouldn't do this, that I got back down on my back in the front yard of our ranch and looked into the heavens again and asked God, what is going to become of me? Just like I did when I was a 9-year-old. And I heard that voice say, listen, I've given you all the tools, get off your ass and go do something about it. And I got up and I started writing, and out of that came the book Expectation Therapy, the course, and all those things that have come from it, meeting you and all the wonderful people that I have, but more important, that I've met the love of my life again,
Yeah.
almost a year and a half after that, and then living it. So I understand it from the point, and I also understand it from Vietnam because of losing friends and close friends there at a young age, 18 years old. And you see the depth that surrounds you, you begin to realize the fragile thing that we have in life. It's so fragile. And you just, one step, one turn, one anything can end it. And not of what you've told us is that we don't control that. We can't control how we go, but what we can control is how we honor those that do. And they're so beautiful what you're doing, and you're being able to help other people. Golly, it's so powerful for me when I hear it. Tell me something about some of the people you've helped. I mean, I'd like to hear some of how you've helped other people get through this.
So normally how I help, I had a friend who lost her son just a year and a half ago. And that was so close to home. That's one of my hardest, because that's so close to home, right? Because our heart breaks for our friend. Our heart breaks for any human who is going through pain. But I think the way that it works is allowing that person to go through the grieving process and to be angry at God and scream at God and whatever it is that you have to do. I think it's just all of that process. And then it's almost, at least the way I see it, is we go through the stage like a little kid having that temper tantrum, and we're just so angry and unconsolable. And because there are no words, there are no words. When that kid is having that temper tantrum, unless they get that thing that they want, they're not going to settle down. Well, there's no way we can bring this person back who has passed away. So it's getting all of that frustration and pain and grief and shock and dazed and confusedness out of us. It's almost when you surrender to what is. This is what, and now what do I do with that? And then being able to help. What's that?
The reality.
The reality of it. Yeah, because this is it. This is it. There's no do-overs. I don't get to make that phone call. I don't get to write that letter. I don't get to, I'll meet you for lunch now. No, it's done. It's final. And that's the most painful thing of it. It's final. And most everything else in our life, we can get a do-over. We can try again with a spouse. We can try again with a kid. We can try again with a job. When it's death, that's it. And I think it makes us freaking insane. I think it makes us crazy. So coming to terms with knowing my heart is broken right now, but every single organ in my body knows how to heal itself, including my broken heart. And if I can find the way to help another person or to honor my loved one and do one thing today that feels like love, and even if it's in the name of my loved one. So today I do this in honor of you, Dara. And if that means I hold a door open at the store for somebody else to walk in, the person who flips me off in the car because I accidentally cut him off, I don't recant with, my finger going into the air too. I do that in honor of you today, Dara, or Jim or Pete or whoever, because I can honor you that way. And it's love. I can give back to the world love. From my pain, I can have even a deeper well of love, which you never would have convinced me of 11 years ago. But it's almost like there's more love in my heart than there has ever been in my heart. And the people that I've worked with, those who want to get better, I believe the same exact thing has happened, that they just discover that there's more love in their heart. It's almost when your heart breaks open, more love comes out of it. So there is the pain, but the pain tends to resolve and the love tends to get a little bit stronger and more powerful and more aware, more present. And I think that's all part of the healing, because there's some people who choose to never heal, and we can't do anything with that. That's very sad, but that's a path that that person has chosen. And I just tell them, when you're ready, I'm always available. And if you're never ready, then I will love you and hold you in high thought while you're going down this journey, because some people do choose to be angry for the rest of their life about the loss of that loved one. But that's how I do it. That's how I work with my clients who are trying to, we've come to terms with the loss, and now what do I do? And then this is where we can open up a whole brand new world of wonderful things. And many times I would do something completely different and new. And I would say to my daughter, oh my God, if only you could see this. And I hear her say, are you serious? I've seen that a gajillion times. You're just now seeing it. I've been there and back 500 times today, So.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever inspired you to discover a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled you? It is a magical experience, isn't it? Inspiration is indeed very powerful, yet it's often undermined. It can lift you from the ground to the sky in no time. Have you ever thought about returning the favor by inspiring the people around you? If you don't think you have it in you, we have good news for you. Art Costello's online course has everything you need to learn to supercharge yourself and shape your character into a powerful personality. Get ready to discover your strengths and unleash the creativity within. Don't believe it? Check it out yourself by signing up for this life-changing course at expectationacademy.com. That's expectationacademy.com.
One of the things that I'd like to bring up, what you talk about, I respectfully understand it, but it also pertains to a lot of other things in life. Because when people hang on to the hurts and the events that have formed their life, what comes to my mind is my mother. My mother was a child of the Depression. Her father was very wealthy. And my mother grew up and was born into wealth. And then when she was 10 years old, in 1929, the stock market crashed and they lost everything. My mother could never give up on it, that her father lost their wealth. Well, my granddad didn't lose their wealth. It was an event outside of his control. But my mother would always say, I remember how it used to be when I was a little girl, and I wish that it was like that again. Because my mother had to work and rebuild her life, but she was so stuck in 1929 as a little girl that it prevented her from living the life that she was meant to live. And she really tried to instill it in her children, because she would always say, nothing is ever going to be the same. In its own way, that inhibits a child from freedom. And I had never thought about it in that light until we were just talking now. And it just goes to show you, when we discuss things and we bring things up, how we can learn from them. And, I wish my mother's life had been different. I wish she was happy. She was so unhappy all of her life that it inhibited her from living. And I can remember as a little boy promising myself that I would never live in the past. And that it was part of my learning process to live in the now. And I've always lived in the now moment, because I know I can't change the past and I can't control the future. So all I got is now. And I had to teach myself that. So that's something that I really, really love teaching other people about. And you do too, in your own way, because it's just surrounded more around the grief element, where I've chosen the expectation part of it, because in my childhood, my parents placed no expectations upon me. None. Yeah. No social expectations, no scholastic expectations, no expectations at all. So that became my center. But really, we're talking about some of the same things and how to get through them, just in different ways, which I find fascinating. But yes, I also find it really rewarding and grateful. I'm very grateful that you're doing what you're doing, and that you're able to help people through that grieving process, because we all grieve things, even not around death, I mean, about events in our lives, a breakup. Think of all the kids that get upset, and, we have so many kids that are suicidal now, and they're taking their lives because they give up hope. And what we're teaching people is how to hope again after events in our life. How do you hope again? How do you live again? And it lies so deeply in the choices we make, and how we expect things to be, and how we manage those expectations around that. And it's just really beautiful. I mean, when you think about it, it's really a beauty in it, and it's very freeing.
Absolutely.
And that's the same thing I see in you, is how free you are after having lost Dara. And when you walk by her picture and you heard her speak to you through those pictures that were around you, it's very moving. I mean, it's very real. And I think it can really help some people resolve some issues, because it's not just around the element of death. It can be divorce. It can be so many other issues that we have, breakups and loss of a job. I think one of the other key elements that you bring up is becoming a doer, doing things.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, and just like your mom, Art, when you're saying how, and there's so many people who do that, they're 60 years old, and you can tell they're not happy. And just in general conversation, something about high school will come up, and you're like, you're talking 40 years ago, 45 years ago, that's the thing that's preventing you from living your life full out. Well, you don't understand. I do understand. I completely understand, because I was there at one time too. And it was through the blessing of my daughter and of everything that I got to gain and learn, that holding on to the past, we have this beautiful book in front of us that has pages, everything on the left-hand side, written pages that starts on your birthday and comes all the way up to this very moment. And from this place forward, all empty pages, to put anything on those empty pages. But most of us have a tendency to take everything from the past, usually the bad things from the past, bring them forward and put those onto the clean white papers that lay in front of us, which is our future. And then, like a prophecy, we grow right into that. Well, if we can grow right into everything that's wrong, we absolutely can grow into everything that is right. And as I'm saying this, one of the things that came to me one time, this was just so profound for me. And I don't remember where I was when this happened, but I know I was having a moment about losing Dara. And I had said, oh, I know what it was. I was trying to get rid of, I was cleaning out my closet, and I had some jeans that didn't fit me anymore. And I was going to donate the jeans. And I was like, I donate my jeans. I can't get rid of these. She knows me from my Levi's. If I got rid of my Levi's, how would she ever know me? Now, I know that doesn't make sense to a competent person, but it made complete sense to me. I would not get rid of those Levi's. They were the only jeans that I could wear. So I kept them. And a couple of days later, I said, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this because I'm going to leave you behind. And again, I heard this. And this is why I so believe that we just go back to source, that it's just energy, that we go back to source. And I heard again in my heart, I heard her say, perhaps you're not leaving me behind at all. Perhaps I'm waiting for you. I'm ahead of you. And I'm just waiting for you to catch up with me. And what a difference that made in my life, because that's what happens with a lot of us, whether we are leaving behind a lifestyle that we knew and now we can't live that. Now we've gone from, uber wealthy to completely poor. And, how do I move forward from that? Like, How do I know that there's not another wealthy lifestyle waiting for me? How do I not know that there's another beautiful, wonderful spouse waiting for me? How do I not know that there's the best career choice ever that's a perfect alignment and in harmony with me that's waiting for me? It's opening up to possibilities, accepting. We don't have to like it, but accepting whatever that loss is, the job, the spouse, the house, the city we lived in, whatever it is. And knowing if we live in a world of polarity, which we do, then if this thing feels that bad, then the opposite of it has to be something really freaking great. So I'm going to put my energy into that thing that's really freaking great, and that's what I'm going to look for. Those are my pages that go forward. Those are all of my empty pages going forward. The world of possibility and what I can grow into, what is my true beingness and becomingness in this world.
Yeah, I always talk about that I believe in the possibility of everything. That's
Yes,
one of my mantras. I believe in the possibility of everything. And,
absolutely.
and then probability. I talk a lot about probability because if you believe in the possibility, then everything becomes probable.
Isn't that true? And people go, oh, yeah, well, not for me. Think about, we put a spaceship on the moon. How crazy is that? We did that, right? So the things that we're wanting in our life, we're not asking to build a spaceship and send it up to the moon. That was completely improbable. Nope. Possibility opened up, probability opened up, and now it's fact, right? So that, yeah, possibility to probability, and then go ahead, put her down in the history books. I did it.
It all becomes around choice. It all revolves
absolutely.
around making a choice to be positive or to be negative. If you dwell in the negative, and I talk a lot about expectations that we view them. It's a seed from which we grow, but we view our expectations in two manners. It's either faith or it's fear. If you look at something in fear, and it vacillates because everybody has different things and ideas about expectations, and all of our expectations are different. But the two constants in it are, if you look at things in a faithful light, and faith not always being faith in a religious sense, but faith in the positive, in the good, versus the fear and the negative that it brings to your life. Because people that are negative are not doers. They don't do things because they let the fear stop them from being who they were really meant to be. So if you're listening today and you're living in this space of fear, make the conscious choice. And what I do with my clients, I literally tell them, take your right hand if you're right-handed, or your left hand if you're left-handed, reach up to your temple and turn the switch. Turn the switch to positive if you're negative. Get it standing straight up. Do it physically. Take that action and do it physically. Make that choice now to become positive, and let go of all the negative things that are going on in your life, because it's going to stop you from being who you were meant to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you can't stop the circumstances. Circumstances are going to happen in our life, but we don't have to have the circumstance. I mean, we can have a circumstance. It doesn't have to have us, right? There's always something. So if somebody was to say, well, there can't be anything good in the death of your 18-year-old daughter, in that event, no, I mean, there's nothing good in that event, but you can harvest something good from that. It doesn't have to stay in this place of negative and bad. I think one of the biggest blessings that we did, which was not even by my choice, the man that hit my daughter, he ran a red light and he hit my daughter, killed her instantly. He was 59 years old. And in this state, in Minnesota, if there's a vehicular homicide, you have to go to court. You don't get a choice in that. That's what you do. So when we went to court, I thought, I'm going to attack this man. I'm going to attack him. And this is the very first day when you just show up and say, you plead guilty or you understand the charges against you, whatever. I mean, it's 2 seconds. It's 2 seconds. And I thought, I'm going to end up in jail because I will attack him. This is a bad situation. I should not be here because I chose to go alone. There's a court liaison with me. But when I saw him out of the corner, he walked by, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw him. And this wave of forgiveness just washed over me as if it was a shower. There is not a question in my mind that was directly from Dara. This love and forgiveness that washed over me. And we asked the judge, this long process, but we asked the judge, don't give him jail time. What's it going to prove? He's 60 years old. He had Asperger's. You could just tell life had beaten him up all of his life. Why are we going to punish him? Let him I know you have to do something, but let him go to a soup kitchen and do something good for another person. And one of the biggest blessings that came out of that accident, because I asked it all the time, why Dara and why him? Why? Right? Because 2 seconds later, she would not have been hit. Not even 2 seconds, 1 second. She wouldn't have been hit from behind or from the front. It wouldn't have happened. Why him? Why her? And it was at court. And I didn't know it then. This realization just came to me probably 2 years ago, maybe. We had an opportunity to forgive a man who did the absolute unthinkable, right? To be 59 years old and to kill an 18-year-old girl because he had taken an overdose of, I can't think what the name of it is now, an anti-anxiety. He was trying to commit suicide. But he didn't think that it would kick in as he was driving home. He thought he would be home and then would be able to just, his heart would stop from the drugs in his body. But it didn't happen. He passed out at the intersection and ended up hitting my daughter. Oh. So of course, in his mind, how can anybody ever forgive me? And that was one of the biggest blessings. And like I said, that didn't come from me. That was not my heart saying, I forgive you. That was this wave of love and forgiveness that came from Dara. And to be able to have that blessing to give to him and to say, we forgive you. And he just started crying in court. He just was bawling his eyes out because there could be no communication. Court is messed up like that. We couldn't even tell his lawyer, would you please tell him that we forgive him, that we're not holding grudges. We don't wish bad on him. That we feel as bad for him as we feel for us. They can't do any of that stuff. So for a whole entire year, he had to hold that pain of knowing what he did and, what does his family think of me? What do all of her friends think of me? And it was forgiveness. And he just cried his eyes. So would I want my daughter to be dead so I can experience that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's the fact. And what beautiful thing came out of that this now 60-year-old man got to experience what it felt like to truly be forgiven for one of the worst things that could ever happen in a person's life. I have no idea what it would feel like if ever hit and killed anybody, right? Yeah. So what a blessing that was. And like I said, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was completely Dara reaching down, and it was a wave of forgiveness. So that is available to us all of the time.
Mm-hmm. And what a beautiful lesson under such circumstances. What a beautiful lesson to come from Dara's passing that way. I mean, for lessons in not only how to live, but how to forgive, because forgiveness releases so many people from what binds them. I mean, and to learn how to learn these lessons, it's unimaginable to think of going through, because I don't think there's anything worse in the world than losing your child. I can't imagine it.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine it. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and, it's a fear every parent has and every grandparent has.
Right.
It was terrible losing a spouse, but to lose a child, I think there's something about it that is just earth-shattering more than anything else. I thought about it when I was in Vietnam, the parents that lost sons to war and all that. It just what a beautiful lesson in forgiveness in life. And thank you for sharing it, because I know that it's got to be extremely heart-tugging and hard for you to share this. But you're right. The beauty of it and the legacy that Dara has left the world in her passing, and you carrying that lesson on, is honestly honored to have shared this moment with you.
Oh, thank you, Art. Yeah.
Because
I appreciate it.
There's so many people out there that are suffering because they can't forgive somebody else. And they need to, because it's not only about the other person. I think it's more about you. It's more about what you release and what your legacy is going to be to this world. So if you're listening to this and you need to learn about forgiveness, you have somebody here who has a life event that is teaching such valuable lessons. And I'm just honored to have shared it with my audience. And I'm honored that have been on the show. I know we're nearing our time to wrap up. Is there anything you want to share to end the show?
First, I would just like to tell you thank you so much, because I know how dear and sweet and loving and kind you are. And that's why I think your program is so spectacularly powerful, and you walk the talk. And I would just love for your listeners to know that there's just so much more than the circumstance. There's so much more inside of us, that every single one of us has DNA, like the trees, like the grass, that's pushing to reach its full potential. It never stops, no matter what that circumstance is. So don't give in to the circumstance. Have the circumstance, but don't let it have you. Find your footing, find your path, find the forgiveness for yourself. Find the forgiveness for that other person. Set yourself free and live this beautiful life that God intended all of us to live. This beautiful, freeing life.
Beautiful words. Beautiful words. Can you now tell my audience how they can get a hold of you, where they can get a hold of you, and how we can find you?
Yeah. So I'm on the internet at nadahogan.com, and you can email me at nada@nadahogan.com.
Nada, thank you for being here. I love you dearly. You're such an impactful person, and I'm sorry you lost Dara, but there's purpose in everything, and it's for us to find it. It's for us to find it, and you certainly have. Thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Art. It's my honor and my privilege. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Don't know which direction you want your life to take? Are you sinking deep down into the pit of uncertainties day by day? So, what's the secret to leading a happy, satisfied life? It's taking matters into your own hands. But what if the matters in question are a total blur? Art Costello's Expectation Academy course aims to tell you exactly how you can get some clarity in your life. This course can be your savior on your journey to reinventing yourself. While you certainly can't plan your whole future ahead, you can definitely control twists and turns your life takes. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for this course now at expectationacademy.com. Get a chance to broaden your horizons and add meaning to your life. That's expectationacademy.com.
Folks.
Thanks for listening to the show. Drop us your comments and questions with what you want answered on the show. You can subscribe on iTunes and Binge Network. You can also get more information on the website, expectationtherapy.com.